Welcome in, Big Ten backers. We got another show for you. We got Scott Reed from Duck Sports Authority here with us, the publisher, the writer, he does it all. And he's going to come at us with some Duck love here in just a moment. But first, it's football time, so we got to get to that intro, baby.
Let's go,
Love you, man. I'd like to know where Lou Holtz is right now. This is a tough team right here. We're proud to be from Ohio, and it's always been Ohio against the world.
Who taught you how to fight? Who taught you how to be a warrior?
I hate playing against these guys. I hate playing them.
Like, you're making me uncomfortable. Like, I don't.
You better get me right now.
They're fighting for clicks, we're fighting for wins. Right? This game ain't going to be played in Hollywood.
We're in LA. It's us and USC.
We are at the top of the Big Ten Conference. I mean, we're at the top of any conference. I don't ever look at ourselves below anybody. We are
best there is, plain and simple. I mean, I wake up in the morning, I piss excellence.
Sure, you get some of that NIL money that he's sharing with Dan Lanning, but sure you get.
There's some things going on that aren't right as well, so we'll talk about how to handle it.
Really, 2 or 3 beers or 4. I've probably done that 1,000 times in my life.
I'm a man. I'm 40.
Love you, man.
Here we are, week 1 in the books. We had Oregon versus those Idaho Vandals, man. Tell me your thoughts.
You know, it was an interesting game to watch because there was so much hype. Obviously, preseason, you're going based off of – it's so hard in college football sometimes to predict the first couple of weeks because you're talking about what they had last year, star ratings of the people that are coming in, and hype is built up. I think what I saw was the defense was probably everything we thought it was going to be. The offensive line, you know, it struggled some, especially on the right side. They gave up some pressure to Dylan Gabriel to the point where they pretty much in the second half abandoned the deep shots because he wasn't getting quite enough time to do the 5-step and 7-step drops to get those deeper throws. So he started taking what was there. And let's be fair, Idaho also played, you know, too high the whole game. They were not playing man. They were playing too high. They were making sure that Oregon didn't beat them over the top. So Gabriel took what was there. I looked at the line, and in the game, it looked bad. And when you talk to people after the game, it probably wasn't as bad as it looked. But it was one of those things where they weren't ready.
You're talking the offensive line wasn't as bad as it looked? What do you mean?
They weren't ready. And I think it came out in some things where they took it. There was some complacency set in. Oregon opened up last season playing Portland State, and they won 81-7. And I think there was some thought that was going to be the kind of thing that they did this week. They thought it was going to be a roll, a cupcake type thing, even though, you know, coaches all say, oh, we respect the opponent. We respect the opponent. They know when an opponent has less talent, and they know when they should get a big score. A couple of things that were said by players after the game later in the week about thinking that was going to be an easy win. And I think the offensive line, they were complacent with what they were facing, and they were not focused, and they were not as ready to go as I think they needed to be. But we'll see this week, because this week they'll get a real test and, you know, another real test, and we'll see if it was a 1-week bad thing or if that is who that line is. And I think I don't want to ever judge on one game because it's a snapshot of a season and not a big picture. And so I want to get kind of the second game and then see, okay, is it still the same? Are they still struggling with the same things? Are they still struggling on the same side? Is Johnny Cornelius, you know, he was a great right tackle last year. He didn't suddenly stop learning how to play football. And so
absolutely,
was it just a bad game, or is this a bigger systemic issue of, you know, you lose your Heisman Trophy signal caller, who's Heisman Trophy finalist signal caller, who is now the starting quarterback in Denver. You lose your Remington Award-winning center. And that communication gap, is that where the problem is? We don't know that yet. And I think we'll learn a lot more over the next, you know, Boise State this week, Oregon State next week, and then open with UCLA in the Big Ten opener. So I think those things will be, we'll learn a lot in the next 2 to 3 weeks.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So what do you expect for next week? Do you think this is all going to be corrected and it was all just weird, overblown, like everyone was getting the media attention. It was a close game. Oregon the Ducks were predicted to be, top in the nation, not just the Big Ten. Was this just an overreaction? And we're ready for Boise State or what?
They'll be ready for Boise State. And so that will be when I get to the reaction point where if they struggle against Boise State for the second week in a row, then it's not an overreaction. Then it's, hey, that's who this team is if they're struggling with the protection still.
Sure.
Is it an overreaction in week one? Probably not, because you should still be able to do better things with your offensive line. Johnny Cornelius and Poncho Lalulu should be able to be better in the blocking game than they were. Even if you come out flat, you should be able to then, I know you can't just flip a switch, but you should be able to play better than they played. And they struggle for the whole game. So I don't know if it's an overreaction. I think we'll see a lot more this week. And I think the line will be better. I think, as Dan Lanning said, all of these issues that they saw were correctable. There was nothing uncorrectable. There was nothing that you go, oh no, we're just a bad offensive line. I don't think Lanning feels that way. I don't think Alik Terry feels that way. And I'm pretty sure the line doesn't feel that way. I think they're going to be a little bit better this week, and I expect them to perform a lot better.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we hope they do. I mean, you saw UCLA show out. You saw USC. Well, UCLA, I guess shouldn't say show out. They just barely won against Hawaii. But USC from out west, they showed out. Washington had a good game against a rinky-dink team, but a great game. So the teams from the West are showing that they're capable, showing that they're ready for the Big Ten. There's excitement there. You talked about it earlier. Is there excitement for that Boise State game? Are they going to take back that 0-3 record against Boise State, turn that around, and ready to beat the Broncos once and for all?
I think so. And, Trayshawn Holden made a comment, and it's true. He said, I wasn't here when those losses happened, nor was Dan Lanning. I won't use his grammar, but I mean, if you think about it, the two losses that everybody talks about were 15 and 14 years ago, 2008 and 2009.
LeGarrette Blount.
So 15 and 16 years ago. LeGarrette Blount was 15 years ago. The shot where they took out Jeremiah Masoli in 2008 was 16 years ago. Most of these kids some of them were still in diapers when this happened. So I don't think most of them care about that. They don't want to lose at home to anybody. And it's more fan talk. This is for fans. Fans are tired of seeing Boise State folks say 3-0, 3-0, 3-0. Fans care a lot more about that 3-0, I think, than the team does, because they're sitting there going, I've never played Boise State.
Sure. And Dan Lanning never has, too, to your point. So
never coached him, yeah.
Doesn't really make that much of a difference. Sometimes there's that kind of, that weight on your shoulders that you need to get off, and you can feel that pressure on the back, even if it's media pressure. But it's a different team. It's a different decade, really. So there's not really much to worry about in that regard. But are you worried after seeing this that the Ducks may not be on that top echelon in the country or even the Big Ten after seeing that offensive line production? Or you just think they're going to turn the switch and be ready to go?
The thought is there that maybe that offensive line isn't quite up to par yet. The recruiting isn't, it's tough to recruit elite offensive linemen to the West Coast at times. The West Coast has not had a lot of talent at that line in the last couple of years. And you're trying to go into the Southeast and take them away from Georgia, Florida, and Alabama and Tennessee. And they're, that's tough to do. And then you're trying to also take away from Ohio State, Michigan, Wisconsin, Penn State. It's tough to beat all those teams for elite offensive linemen, especially if those guys have to move all the way across the country. And so there haven't been a lot of great wins as far as elite offensive linemen. There have been a few. So is there that concern? Absolutely. When you see an offensive line struggle to contain Idaho, there's a concern. They should be able to contain them a lot better than they did. And so I don't want to overreact and say, oh my gosh, it's not there. I want to wait and see a little bit more. Do you have a hangover week, or is this a systemic issue?
So, all right, all on the line here. What's your score prediction?
I got 38-21. It's about the spread, and it's about the over-under. I think, Boise State gave up a lot of points to Georgia Southern. I think they'll clean up a few things. They won't have as many of the big plays over the top on them. And they have a really good running back, so I don't expect them to be shut down completely. Dan Lanning called Ashton Jeanty the best running back he's seen since he's been at Oregon, and maybe the best running back he's played against ever. He's really high on the running back for Boise State, but I still think they're going to. The defense was legitimate against.
Matt, don't pick your nose or anything, Matt. I brought Matt in. You started talking over and under, and I was like, "Hey, Vegas is here. We got to bring him in."
Well, I looked up the over under. I believe was 64 or 61.5. I believe
61.5. All right, very
yeah,
good.
and the spread was around 18.5 to 19.5, depending on where you looked.
Okay, what do you got, Matt? Oh, we can't hear you. Volume's out, Matt. Vegas.
Sorry, I put myself on mute because you randomly threw me in here. But most sports books you actually seen that spread up to -20, but the 61.5 is pretty consistent. Yeah, seeing a lot of money moving to Oregon recently.
Yeah, it started at 20, it dropped, and I haven't looked today. I hadn't looked today, so I didn't notice it had come back up.
Yes, so
all right,
61.5 staying consistent with that over under.
So yeah, I'm going under. I'm going under slightly, and I'm going under the spread slightly. But I think, a night game, there's going to be intensity because Boise State is going to be intense no matter what. So I'm going to go with the little bit lower score prediction, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was a little bit better than that.
Yeah, they're not going to have Ashton Jeanty run for 6 touchdowns against Oregon's defense, right?
No. Derek Harmon and Jamari Caldwell had a really good game, and people will talk about the linebacker play, but if you didn't look, he actually was. So he played 10 plays, and Justin Jacobs played 7 in the entire game last week. And it was just load management, and that's something that I think we're going to see coaches across the country do this year. Is if you think you're a playoff caliber team, you got to do load management. You can't play 16 and 17 games without some load management at some point in the season. So Bassa was not injured. He was just, hey, we don't need him right now. He came back in the fourth quarter when they did want an extra stop, and they got the stop. It was pretty clear there was some load management going on with both him and Justin Jacobs.
Got it. There was no nagging injuries from preseason camp or anything like that?
No.
Okay. Right on. Well, like I said, there's another team out west that did some business against an SEC foe, right? LSU. That was huge for USC. Huge. So they bumped up in some power rankings, which I'm going to bring in here, and USC's now number 3 in one of the power rankings that we use. What's your thoughts on that? They bumped up against Oregon. I mean, this is a week 1. It's just based on week 1. That's it.
And I mean, I understand because it is an SEC team. LSU had a really good offense last year, and that offense was shut down this year. I'll caution not getting too excited yet. It's the same way. I don't want to get too overreaction in a close win. I don't want to get too overreaction with beating LSU because Garrett Nussmeier is not Jaden Daniels. And so is that offense as dynamic right now as it was at the end of last year? And did USC really stop a dynamic offense, or did they just play an offense that was not suited very well and they were able to do some good things? They're better on defense. I'm not going to take anything away from them. They are better on defense this year than they were last year. Absolutely. And that's all thanks to their new defensive coordinator. But I don't know about LSU. I'm just not sure that how impressive that win is right now, because they don't look like the LSU that played down the stretch last year.
Yeah, that USC defense was 116th in the nation in total defense. They only allowed 113 rushing yards to LSU, and that was kind of their Achilles heel, was rushing yards. They just allowed anyone to rush on them as much as they wanted to. I mean, the defense in general was just bad, but it looked like D'Anton Lynn may have made his mark quickly, and LSU lately has had a great offense. Nussmeier still had like 400 and some yards passing, so he didn't have a bad game. He is not Jalen Daniels, but he's not the runner, but he's a passer. I mean, he can swing the rock for sure.
He is. He should be able to, considering his dad. And little trivia, his dad is actually from Portland.
Oh, really?
He's the Eagles QB coach. He is from Portland, from Lake Ridge High School.
Very good. Well, Scott, as always, it's a pleasure to have you. We want to get some more Oregon Ducks insider information from you. Love every time you can come on, and we're waiting for that big game to happen, October 12th. The Bucks versus the Ducks, baby.
I am building up for it. I'm excited. It's going to be fun. It's going to be a huge visit weekend. You're probably going to see 50, maybe more recruits in town for the game. It's going to be huge, and it's going to be so much fun. I think the environment. Cam Ward probably overstepped his stuff a little bit because he was talking about the only SEC team he's going to play this year when he talked about Florida not being as loud as some of the places he's played. But when you come out and you listen, the stadium may not be as big as Michigan or Ohio State. It's going to be a fun environment. I think anybody that comes out and sees that in person is going to love it. It's such a fun environment, and I'm looking forward to that game so much.
Absolutely. Well, join us again soon, man. I appreciate you taking your time out of your day and staying cool in your car with the air conditioning. So I know it's hot there.
It is. It's still about 95 degrees right now at 7:15.
Wow. Scorcher.
Yeah.
Scorcher on the West Coast. We'll cool down here in the Midwest just a little bit. All right. Well, we're getting into our betting segment. So if you want to watch us live, we're going to get the bets all settled for this week. All right, man.
Awesome. Sounds good, man. Appreciate it.
I'll hit you up another time. I'll get you back on the show.
Awesome. Perfect.
All right. Take care. Good luck. Have a good
week.
weekend.
Guys, you too. See ya.
Later. All right. What's your initial impressions of those power rankings for the Big Ten?
Yeah, I'll be honest. I think Penn State's a little high. I really don't think that highly of a barely bowl eligible West Virginia team. I know is on the road, but I think that USC win was incredibly impressive. At Scott's point, I read absolutely nothing in the Oregon game. Win and move on. It's August, so I'm not a huge proponent of dropping them. Quite honestly, I think it's Ohio State and Oregon are the two best teams in the Big Ten, and until somebody beats one of those two, I'm not going to believe anything different. So
absolutely, man.
Yeah, a little bit of an overreaction, but.
It is, but what are you going to do? This is week one. You have to overreact. There's no other choice. We got to keep moving, keep things fluid, move it around, and just move it around a lot. Like next week, something will change. Someone will drop a little bit, and the other will rise. So the cream always rises to the top. So let the games begin, brother.
Yeah, and I agree. But especially going into this betting segment, we're going to be doing here in a second. You're definitely going to see a lot of line movement based on money flowing and a lot of overreaction from week one. And to me, you can't – if you go back a week ago and we hadn't seen any film and now you watched one game against an inferior opponent and that's somehow changing all these lines, it just doesn't make a lot of sense. So you got to kind of stick to your over-unders, stick to what you know about a team. Don't read much in week one, especially from a betting perspective.
Absolutely. You want to get into these bets or can we go over that USC-LSU game?
I'll let you drive, my friend. I'm riding shotgun.
Here we go. You ride shotgun. Hang along. I'm going to roll down the window so you can take aim, brother.
Absolutely.
USC, the Trojans, dude, they defeated LSU, the Mighty Tigers, to a score of 27-20. It was like a back and forth chess match, brother. It was the best game of the week in week one. Do you agree?
Oh, absolutely. Hands down. I mean, anybody that watched the Georgia-Clemson game, Clemson looked like they were just completely outclassed in every way, shape, or form. It was boring. This game had a lot of action. It had a lot of defense, a lot of strategy. I thought there were two really good coaches on the field as well on top of everything.
Absolutely.
I have to agree, Nussmeier. There were inconsistencies with this game. I was a little disappointed in that. I thought USC was much more balanced on both sides of the ball, which is something we absolutely did not see last year. So
completely shocking. That just took me by storm. I had no clue that defense was going to be good. I picked the over in this game, and that was a terrible pick. I thought both offenses were just going to score at will.
Yeah, and it's funny when after that game I took a quick look at the over-under for LSU because I was wondering if I'm missing something, and they were at 9.5. And I know they have kind of a relatively mediocre schedule, but when you look at 9.5 and they're playing Alabama, they're playing Oklahoma, they're playing Ole Miss, you're probably seeing Vegas chalking this one up as a win. So you kind of have to ask yourself, did Vegas misread LSU? Are they not as good as people thought? Was this a stumble? Time will tell, but I think USC outclassed them in every way, shape, or form in that game.
Yeah, I agree. And USC's quarterback, it was Miller time again, one more time, baby. Miller Moss threw for 378 yards, including a crucial 28-yard touchdown pass to Jacoby Lane late in the fourth quarter. But then LSU was like, you know what? We're not going to be outdone. Came right back, got that field goal to tie it up, 2020 with 1 minute and 47 seconds left. And then, of course, Miller Moss just goes Miller time, baby. Gets it back. Gets that pass down to Kyron Hudson. Spectacular catch, man. And just getting hit in the head while he caught it. Held onto the ball, which was probably even more impressive than one of his other plays, which I will dial up right here.
Let me throw my hand up and give it a shot. That's between two defenders. Then if they loses the ball.
I mean, that was earlier in the game, but...
Let me throw my hand up and give it a shot. That's between two defenders. Then if they loses the ball.
Damn, dude.
Catch of the year, man.
Well, it's funny you bring that up because I didn't agree with you.
Wow. Wow. Is that you? Wow. Wow.
It was a pick. He was on defense. If you didn't see that, you got to look it up. He looked like he was defying gravity in it. Looked like
who says defensive backs can't catch the football? I mean, that was ridiculous.
That was a one-handed snag if I've ever seen one. Dude. But still, let's get back to the game. DeAntoine Land left his mark, and Riley's offense was, for the first time ever, playing complementary football. He didn't do that even at Oklahoma. Nowhere he's been. No stops. Has he been like, you know what? I'm going to try to make things easy on my defense. I'm going to slow it down, play methodical football. And welcome to the Big Ten Trojans, baby. We are ready for you. We are ready for you to make your mark, and I'm glad you're there. Are they contenders in the Big Ten now?
No, they're not.
Not contenders.
And they're just not, because again, until I'm convinced that somebody's beating Ohio State or Oregon, I just cannot see a world where right now that is not your Big Ten championship game. Those two teams, I think talent-wise, they're elite across the board. I think USC did well, but I'll be honest, I am not bullish on LSU. And we get to the end of the season, and that's a 7-5, 8-4 team. We're going to look back on this and say this was a preseason ranking big hype win. It wasn't beating an elite team. So,
all right, you're on, man.
See it.
Big Ten and Beyond's with us. We're just talking USC, LSU. Want to get your impressions. I know that was our last question for you, but hey.
No, that's okay.
That's okay.
Good evening, gentlemen. Hope you guys are good.
Doing great.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was. I just caught the very end of what Vegas Matt was saying, and I kind of agree. Where you had two different things going on. You had the it was there. USC was catching a lot of flack in the offseason for lack of defense. And how are they going to be? Yeah, how are they going to be coming in? And
116th in the nation last year.
Yeah, and
near the damn bottom.
LSU's a powerhouse. All right, so how are they going to do? And I think it was a combination of people underestimating. I was surprised and impressed, and it's a good comparison. Just a position. I actually had it in my notes tonight that there were a lot of comparisons, even though they were better offensively. People talking about Penn State versus West Virginia and Southern Cal LSU. Southern Cal and West Virginia, completely different. I get that. But they were both coming in with very poor defenses to end the season. And it was like, okay, how are both teams going to make a big jump that first week? And you see West Virginia, they were ranked like 65th to end the season, right? And they looked that way coming in. Southern Cal did not. Southern Cal looked like a top 30 defense, like they did. And that's quite an accomplishment in the offseason by the first game against LSU. I mean, now I think LSU was ranked a little high, rated a little high, but USC, they still put on a good show. They got a lot of speed on defense, and in 5 weeks when –
and tenacity, man.
Yeah.
They were getting after it. I mean, they look like they were pissed when they got some
a chip on the shoulder.
Them.
Everybody says that.
Absolutely.
I've been saying that, and I keep saying people laugh at me, but I think it's the enemy the enemy and for me, I was catching crap from Penn State fans all this week because I made a post that I'm more concerned about Southern Cal on the road than I am at Ohio State at home.
Mm-hmm.
And
I can see that now.
Ohio State spent all this money. They have the best roster. I get it. But when Ohio State comes into Happy Valley, we know exactly what we're going to get. You're going to get the power. You know what you're going to get with Ohio State, and they're just going to challenge you to beat them, right? And it's that bully. It's Penn State's bully. They are. Southern Cal, you're like, okay, they got this lightning offense. They're unpredictable. How good is the defense going to be? It's going to be it's more like a caged animal with Southern Cal, where Ohio State's more like a big wrestler. Like you know what you're going to get out of them. That's just my 2 cents anyway. Without getting off on a tangent, but no, I think
And we put it on there earlier. This is actually your power ranking, so give you some credit here. I like it. I like that you didn't move Minnesota down for losing to North Carolina because I think most of those teams beyond them would have lost to North Carolina too.
Right. Right.
So I thought that was good to keep them there. I like that you kind of kept Iowa where they were at. They showed a good offense. They didn't play anyone, but who cares? So
yeah, they looked improved. That was the point. They looked in our team showing improvement, right?
Yes.
Like I manage people, and you're not always going to hit 100% every month, but you go, hey, did you show improvement month over month or week over week? So Iowa, everybody ragged on them for their offense, including me, right? It was a big joke for everybody. Well, they showed improvement, So Michigan didn't look the hottest against Fresno, but it's the first game of the season. Oregon didn't look good, but I'm sure they're going to turn it around and start pancaking people. So
yeah, and I probably maybe just because SC beat LSU versus Penn State and West Virginia, I might have flipped the two, but still reasonable, right?
Yeah. That USC definitely belongs in the top 3 right now with their performance in.
Absolutely.
Everybody picked on them. Everybody picked on them about the defense, and they took care of business and showed up the first game of the season, which is not easy to do. A lot of teams are sloppy the first game of the season, and they weren't. So
let's get to that Penn State afterthought, man. What did you think after that game? What about Drew Aller? What about that passing game? That's what everyone wanted to know. Where was the passing game at? Who were going to be the wide receivers? Well, guess what? They had them.
Yeah. No, I think one of the first things that I saw after were people saying, where's Julian Fleming? He was supposed to be the big guy. And where's Julian Fleming? And James Franklin actually answered that. He was saying, it just didn't work out for him on a couple routes. He didn't get a separation. But two of the big touchdowns, the one to our tight
Harrison
end,
Wallace,
and for Wallace, he had the key blocks on the outside on both of those touchdowns. If it wasn't for Fleming, those touchdowns probably wouldn't have happened, right? And that's a big thing he did at Ohio State too. So
absolutely,
he did his part. But I thought I try to keep myself in check and look at things objectively, right? And I thought it was a real good taste of what we've been waiting for with this offense and what they're capable of. It's been frustrating to see all the talent that we've had and no utilization or imagination. Last year it had to be super frustrating for everybody watching that wants us to beat Ohio State every year, and we come close. And we lose to the number 3 team in the country by 8 points. And it was like, if we just had a spark somewhere, just a little bit of adjustment, imagination, right? But it was good to see a couple wide receivers stepping up. It's funny because somebody on maybe Zach Seiko, I think he posted, who's going to score the first touchdown for Penn State? And I said, it's going to be Wallace. And Wallace scored the first touchdown. So there we go. But it was good to see him hitting the big plays. And I just think we're seeing the tip of the iceberg. So
Drew Aller, he balled out, man. 11 of 17, 3 touchdowns, putting up against those Mountaineers. Then he also ran his butt off, man. 44 yards on the ground, 7.3 yards per carry.
Yeah. We talked about that. Yeah, we talked about that, how he dropped some weight and was going to be a little more mobile when needed, and that's exactly what happened. And what's funny is last year he did 325 yards and 3 touchdowns, right? This year he was more efficient. Like, it was just, he only had 17 passes the whole game, you know? And I was happy with it. He had a bit of an attitude. You know, he was giving it back to him a little bit, and everybody saw the stiff arm with Trotter. And, you know, West Virginia fans will blow that off. They're like, oh, but he made the tackle. It's not the point. The point was Drew gave the stiff arm and got the first down.
Absolutely.
And that's a big difference from what we've seen. So
Penn State, are they a contender for the Big Ten? Do they have a legit shot at knocking off Ohio State?
I would say they have a legit shot. They've had legit shots. 17 and 18, Absolutely. 2 years in a row, we lost by 1 point. That's devastating. Last year, 8 points. We haven't been able to finish. That's been a Franklin thing and people know that, where he gets up, Franklin's so scared to make a mistake, he wants to try and do power football against these big aggressive teams, and it's almost like when they get down to Penn State by a touchdown, they got us right where they want us. You know?
So
I think that it's a different PSU. This is a PSU team that's been fed up, right? They're ready to get over that hump and finally defeat their bully. The defense has been there. You know, just the lack of adjustment. It's going to be a clash of the Titans this year. I really believe that, with them coming to Happy Valley. Penn State beats USC. You're going to have 2 teams undefeated, like 7-0. You know, and I think just knowing anybody who's watched Penn State for years, there's like this weirdness when they're not supposed to win, they do. And it's, my whole thing has been specifically because this is the year that Ryan Day and Ohio State sunk $20 million into the whole thing, right? This is their year, and you hear Urban Meyer be talking about this is the best Ohio State roster.
And Tressel.
Yeah. Right. And this will be the year that Penn State beats them. It'll be like, it'll defy logic, but that's, you know, I don't care
as
how
long
much
as it's not on that blocked kick at the end of the game.
Yeah.
Man, that was a backbreaker for sure.
It was just unreal. It's one of those great moments in sports, right? You just never know. That's why we watch college football. So,
all right, Andy Kotelnicki did his thing. Also, Diaz is gone. Tom Allen took over, did his thing too. Both coordinators look like great hires. That's the one thing that's difficult with coaches. I think Franklin is making the right choices lately in coordinators. Obviously, Yursich didn't work out well, but right now he looks like he's on the right path to coordinators and getting this team turned around to elite, which is what he wanted.
Well, that's what he's talking about ever since his Good to Great speech years ago, which is one of my favorite books, by the way. It's one of my, you know, success Bibles, but he's just always, it's been really close, and I think he realized that it's got to be now. Like, there can't be any more excuses. There can't be any, like, you got to bring him in. You got to make clear what the objective is. And he's got Tom Allen. I heard one of the players say that where Tom Allen is different than Diaz is when the game is really electric and things, you know, emotions are running high. Tom Allen is like really calm and cool and collected, where Diaz is more like getting fired up and everything, right? Where Tom Allen's just like, he's calm and cool, so the defense, the players stay calm and cool in a situation. So that's kind of the one difference I've heard. And then Kotelnicki, he's just, you know, he's
a brainchild.
He's been what's been advertised, and you know, we're excited. It was what was really cool the other day, and the one play that I liked. There were you know, it was fun, but the one play I liked is Bo Perbola's our backup, and everybody knows he's primarily a runner. He's only thrown a little bit, but they brought him in a run package, and then completely faked it. And he throws a 19-yard strike to Tyler Warren to the tight end, and it was just it was great. It was just really good to see that. And he said that he loved it because he's trying to prove to people that he's a passer, you know, not just a runner.
Sure.
Really like to see that for him and see that play. So,
all right. Hey, everyone. We had 2 guests on here, 2 Rivals writers, and you also write for Nittany
Central.
Right?
Yep.
Nittany Central, sorry.
Yep.
Seen a couple of your articles on there. Love them. And a photographer as well.
Yes, sir. Yep. Done that for years. Go follow
Big Ten and beyond, go follow Scott Reed at Duck Sports Authority, and you got good content there, and we will be having both of them back on the regular, hopefully, mostly for the big games, and get your reaction to what's to come and what's to be. All right.
Great stuff.
Thanks for joining us. One last thing I just wanted to point out real quick. Harrison Wallace, 5 receptions, 117 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Amari Evans, 2 receptions, 55 yards. So big plays to those wide receivers, too. Averaging over 23 yards per reception for both.
Apparently, the guys in the locker room say that we're just scratching the surface with Harrison Wallace. Like what he's doing, they're saying that's just, the beginning, and that it's no surprise to them. So I think this guy's going to be, huge for us, and we're looking forward to it.
The real deal.
Yeah.
All right, my man.
Yeah.
Well,
awesome.
hope we have you back sometime soon. All right.
Yeah, man.
I'll get at you, and thanks for supporting us, and hopefully everyone that we have supports you.
Absolutely. We'll see you. Have a great weekend.
Follow them on Twitter. Follow Big Ten and Beyond on Twitter, too, because it's good stuff.
See y'all.
Take care. All right. Hey, sorry for going a little long-winded here, but we got Matt Does Vegas back for our betting show, buddy. You ready?
I'm always ready.
Born ready. Let's go.
Yeah.
You want to get into this, or you need a little break? Do we need to pay some bills, or what?
Let's get a little housekeeping in, then we'll pay some bills, and then we'll get at it, man, if you don't mind.
Oh, let's do it.
Yeah.
Get that housekeeping. Let's go.
Got to get the housekeeping in. So we just want to let everyone know the Big Ten backers want to clearly state that all aspects of our betting segment or any discussions around gambling are for entertainment purposes only. Betting should only take place in states where gambling has been legalized. If you have a gambling problem, please call 1-800-GAMBLER or utilize the local resources in your area. Most of these services are free of charge and available 24 hours a day. Please budget accordingly and stick to a strict plan when legally gambling. Do not chase losses by betting on games or props originally not part of your plan, and do not exceed pre-planned budgets. Thank you and good luck, y'all.
Oh, man, do not bet your double wide on any of these picks. Come on, man. If you can't afford it, don't do it. If you can't get your child a bicycle, you don't deserve to be betting, brother. Come on.
That's exactly right.
All right. Time to pay some bills, and it is going to get spicy with Dano's seasoning, baby.
Yum, yum, get you some. Very good. Yum, yum, get you some. Yum, yum, get you some. Yum, yum, get you some.
Dano seasoning, food's favorite flavor.
Yum, yum, get you some.
I'm Joe Burrito, your favorite burrito. Whoa, whoa.
Joe,
hey.
We all know you're the best.
What?
You can always do better. Try the new Dano's Hot Chipotle.
Hey. Ooh, that's spicy. Yum, yum.
Yum, yum, get you some.
Big Ten Backers, as always, is brought to you by Dogs Media Network. Thank you, Dogs, for putting this on for us. We love you. Get you some dogs. Go check them out. But it is time for the bets, baby. Matt Does Vegas. Are you doing Vegas dirty, or is Vegas doing you? Tell us about last week.
Yeah, I think it depends on who you're asking. So,
who got did?
We'll head right to the standings to start. So last week we bet on 16 games because the Minnesota-North Carolina game was going on as we were speaking. We didn't count it towards the record. But last week, Vegas Matt went 10-6 on the week.
Oh, Vegas.
2.5% winning percentage. It's early. Got to stay humble, but good start. Coming in second, AJ was 7-9 last week, about 43.8% winning percentage. And in third, again, excluding the BWYP game of the week, which, by the way, you did win, is 6-10. So
hey, all I got to do is win the BWYP.
Yeah, we'll see what happens this week.
That's what counts. I lost that last year, so that's my goal this year, just to win
that. Not a high goal, man. Not a high goal.
Just to get lucky, baby. Because no one knows those teams. No one. Nobody.
You got to, man. You know, I tell you and AJ off the record, the best betting you can find is in the group of 6. There's a lot of good value there. So you got to start learning those a little bit better.
Absolutely. Hey, and we're missing AJ. AJ is overseas. He's stuck working because it's like normal working hours where he lives.
Yeah.
All right. So we might not have him for too many betting shows, but we'll still give him shit. And he won't be able to talk back. So that's even better.
We'll get his picks in. Don't worry. We'll keep that going. We'll keep him honest. So We'll make it
Keep
work.
that tally. Did he send them to you, or is he sending them later?
He is not. I think he wants to steal your picks and listen to them.
He wants to wait till I'm done. Yeah, he
Yeah.
would. That little bastard.
Yeah.
He's watching now, isn't he?
Oh, yeah, he is. He's in the crowd.
On his lunch hour.
All right, man.
All right, here we go. Let's get to it.
Yeah, let's dive right on in. Where do you want to start?
Hey, well, I want to start by asking you, did you go to Vegas this week?
You know, I don't like to comment on that very much, man. So
I was telling a friend of mine, I don't think you know him, but
mutual friend? Yeah, okay. Oh.
No, not mutual friend. I was telling him your story, and he was like, "Oh, he really does go to Vegas every week." I was like, "Yeah, man, that's what he does." I mean, that's all he does.
You got to keep your pulse on this stuff, to be honest with you. And again, when we talk about following the money and following the sharps, there's a lot of seriousness to that, because there are people who are, professionals in this arena. They take it very seriously, and everything's out there to track and bet. So you got to keep your pulse on it.
All right, tell me the pulse, baby. Bring it.
Yeah, where are we going first?
I think you got it. Texas, Michigan, right?
Yeah, I think
starting hot.
I think there's no better place to start than the best game by far on the schedule this week. So
let's do it.
In this
Big
one
Ten
again,
SEC.
as we were talking with both Scott and Big Ten Beyond about kind of overreaction of week one, I think there's no more indicative game than this one about that overreaction, because if you're looking at the starting spread, this started at -3.5. You're now seeing most sports books having this game at -7.5. So that's a 4-point swing in favor of Texas. Large part, in fact, of what they did to Colorado State, the sluggishness you saw from Michigan against Fresno State. So I think this is an extreme overreaction to week one. And if you're going to over-under, it started at 44.5. You're now seeing that drop to 42.5.
Oh, man, that would have been so much better to take the under at 44.5.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know. Even 42.5, I guess, to me, I don't know if you're going to see a 21-17 type game. What Quinn Ewers did, granted Colorado State, but that was an offense that was clicking on all cylinders. And if you got to be really honest, I know Fresno State's defense is not the same as Texas's defense, but at the same point, that was a very sluggish, very ugly offensive showing from Michigan, and still connected for 30 points against a team that's projected to win 7 to 8 games this year. So that's not a slouch in Fresno State that came into that big house. So you're seeing about 70% of the money leaning towards Texas right now. What I think is very fascinating is over the last few days, you're seeing the over-under money about 50-50, which is, again, is Las Vegas's dream when they can get 50-50 on that.
Yeah.
But I look at the trend of that under, and I think Texas doesn't put up the same numbers. Obviously, Michigan got a very, very good defense. I still think Michigan's got to figure out that quarterback play, so I'm going under. How about you?
I'm under too, man. I can't help it. I mean, nothing else looks playable, really, except for the under. Like, maybe you get the 7.5, you go ahead and lay the points, but, oh, man, I got to go under.
I agree. And Michigan are the defending national champs. I understand 36% returning production, new quarterback, all that stuff. There's a lot of talent on that roster. So it's not like Texas is rolling into Lubbock to play Texas Tech or anything here. I think that spread's a little tricky.
Yeah, very much.
All right. Where are you off to next?
Hey, man, this is your part. I'm in the driver's seat now. I'm not in the driver's seat now. I'm riding shotgun. So, dude, the betting segment, you're the shark, man. Tell me.
I'm sorry, man. I'm used to AJ driving, man. All right.
Yeah, you drive it. Go ahead. I ain't no host.
Yeah, I'll take the wheel. That's fine by me. I think we're gonna go to Nebraska, man. We're gonna talk about Colorado and Nebraska. So
another huge game. Damn.
Yeah. Very. I think this could be one of the most entertaining games between two non-ranked teams we've ever seen. I think it's going to be wildly entertaining. Starting spread was – I'm sorry?
It's going to have some media attention for damn sure.
Oh, yeah. So the starting spread was -6.5 Nebraska. You've seen that bump up to -7.5 with about 71% of the money going to Nebraska on that spread. Over under, it started at 56.5. It has jumped all the way up to 59. So you've seen a 2.5 point increase on that. Money's cooled a little bit, but it's still about 68% on the over. This is a game that's really hard to read. I was very bearish on Nebraska in week 1. I thought UTEP was going to cover that 27.5. They did not. Nebraska came out clicking on all cylinders. I haven't seen a Nebraska offense like that since the Tom Osborne era. So that was really fun to watch. And Colorado is just such an enigma. I think they're a tremendously flawed football team. They're an undisciplined football team. But my goodness, do they have some athletes. Travis Hunter is looking like a top 5 pick. That is a pure athlete playing both sides of the ball. Shadur is playing out of his mind. I think he's going to have a great year this year. So he
played all but one snap.
Yeah.
All but one snap. That's not going to add up for a full season.
No.
Not in big boy college football. It's not going to happen.
And, we've seen that in a few cases in college football, and I'll be honest, the NFL, I don't see that appealing in the NFL. I see them looking like you're going to go to one side or the other and you're going to stick there. I really don't see them the dual threat at the NFL level. So I do get a little bit concerned about conditioning there. And if I'm Colorado or if I'm his agent, I'm probably saying, hey, Travis, why don't you pick wide receiver? You can probably make a little more over there and just stick to the offense. But with that being said, I really don't like this spread because I think there are just too many unknown variables with both teams. In a situation like that, I tend to follow the money on the over-under, in which case you're seeing that 2.5 points going up with the over. I like it at 59, so I'm going to take the over. How about you?
I got the Cornhuskers winning, but I got Colorado covering.
All right. Yeah. It could very well be the case at that 7.5. You could see Nebraska winning by 7, good win for them, and they don't cover. So makes sense. All right. With that, we're going to move on. Number 17, Kansas State, 1-0, taking on Tulane, the Green Wave at 1-0. So this spread started at minus 10.5. We've seen it drop to minus 9. The over-under started at 48.5, dropped slightly to 47.5. What I find interesting is over the last week, you've seen about 65% of the money go into Tulane. And the reason why, we talked about this last year, we're going to pepper these in with some of the bigger games of the week. Tulane is one of those few group of 6 favorites that they play their schedule tough. They play their cards right, especially a big win over a top 20 team. They could be eyeing that 12th seed in the playoffs. And with that, I think they're clicking. They're doing a lot of things well. I will take +9. Give me Tulane. How about you?
Ooh, the +9 for Tulane. Really? Lay the points. Give me Kansas State.
All right. And with that, we're going to move on to the Iowa Corn Cyhawk series.
Ooh, this one's a big game. This is a big game. Iowa State returns a lot of returning production. I think it's 86%. They may be close to number 1, if not number 1 in returning production. So Matt Campbell's got himself a veteran team.
Matt Campbell, shout out the Mountain Union, stud for sure. Gotta love those Purple Raiders. And don't sleep on Iowa State. Again, early on in the season, I like that over under. Iowa State was at 7.5 in a more competitive, probably the 3rd best conference in college football in the Big 12. So 7.5 is not a terrible record there. Iowa, just for reflection, is 8.5 at their over under, but they are the 21 seed Iowa Hawkeyes. You saw this spread start at -2.5. You've seen it jump to -3.5. And as with every game that involves Iowa, the over under started at 36.5. It has now dropped to 35. I kind of hate to be the wet blanket with everyone. I know what last week happened with Illinois State. First, I want to preface that by saying Illinois State is an FCS football team. I also want to let everyone know.
Is that your wife's nickname for you? The wet blanket?
Yeah, actually it is. That checks out perfectly. But I also want to reiterate that last year, Iowa had one of the worst offenses I have ever watched at any level of football. And they put up 41 points early on against Western Michigan, an FBS MAC school. So I
can think of some Pee-wee teams that were worse.
Probably not, dude. Probably not.
They scored more.
When the punter's the MVP of the offense for the season, when they do their team dinner, you got some issues. So I really want to temper expectations on Cade McNamara and this high-powered offense against Illinois State. I say all that and I say, listen, if you got a good trend, stick with it. I like the under at 35. How about you?
Lay the points. Give me Iowa.
All right.
There's going to be a trend coming, by the way.
I'm curious to see how all this plays out. When I have the full spreadsheet laid out, I'll see what I can do here. But we are moving on to Champaign, where number 19 Kansas is taking on the Fighting Illini of Illinois. You've seen the spread stay relatively consistent all week at -5.5. The over-under started at 55.5. That has creeped up to 57.5. Really, money-wise, you're only seeing about 55% going to Kansas. So, again, 55-45 splitting on betting. That's pretty close to neutral as far as Vegas is concerned. That's why you're not seeing a lot of line movement there. However, you're seeing about 88% of the cash going to the over. You can't get a good read on either of these teams with week one, played very weak opponents in week one. I think this one's a little bit blown out of proportion. Again, public loves betting over. You always got to be a little conscientious with money and bets on the over. Nobody likes to watch a 13-10 game. They love watching a 48-38 game. So with that being said, I'm going to go against the grain and go under. How about you?
Lay the points. Give me Rock Chalk Jayhawk. I just don't trust Bert and his eating habits. Like, he's just going to gain so much weight that he's not even going to be able to call plays anymore.
I think it's something he needs to continue to monitor, but I'll leave that up to
blood pressure.
All aspects of it. It is alarming, but as long as he keeps going 500 at Illinois, he's probably still got a job. So,
touche. I always want to pick Illinois against Kansas. I'm like, you got to be able to beat Kansas. You got to be able to beat Kansas, and I get let down every single year. So I'm going to pick against them this year and see what happens.
And I agree. And Kansas is so intriguing. I love Lance Leipold as a coach. I think he's a true winner. He's phenomenal. I'd really like to see him get elsewhere outside of Kansas. And you just never know what you're going to get quarterback play-wise from Kansas. They're just such an unknown variable. And when you have teams like that, especially early on, taking that over-under is probably a safer play with some of these. Yeah. But with that, we're gonna move on where – the primetime ABC game of the week, and this one I think is going to be really intriguing. You got number 14 Tennessee traveling to face the number 24 ranked NC State Wolfpack. This one spread started at -5.5 in favor of Tennessee, a road favorite. You've seen that jump up to -9.5 in favor of Tennessee, again a road favorite. Over-under started at 58.5. You've seen that jump up to 61.5. So you've seen a lot of money movement in terms of about 97% of the money going to Tennessee, and you've seen about 62% of the money going to over. That's what's causing these to jump. However, I think Tennessee is one of the most overranked teams year in and year out. This isn't even one of those Texas A&M, Notre Dame type teams that gets a lot of talent. They just can't put it together. I think they have good recruiting classes, but I think people are still living off the Peyton Manning era down there and the T. Martin era down there. With that being said, I'm going to take that 9.5. Give me NC State. How about you?
NC State all the way. I think NC State is overrated. I was just trying to look. Their returning production is 59%. So I'm going to go with the over all day. I think Tennessee will blow them out, and then all of that media hype for Tennessee will go through the roof because NC State should not even be ranked, but they are because of last year's success.
I think NC State's got a solid team, and again, I like quarterback play. You got Grayson McCall there, a veteran, did some great things at Coastal. So I think they can hang tough, especially with that quarterback play. And honestly, these teams don't get a lot of these ABC primetime 8:30 East Coast games. And when that happens, that juice factor is really important. It's like bad teams playing on Monday Night Football. Unders always cover on Monday Night Football. The underdogs always cover. It's because they like that bright lights, the nighttime game. If this was a noon kickoff, I could see you going Tennessee. But I think that night game makes a difference.
Tennessee all the way. Going over.
Wait. Tennessee or over? I got you down as over.
I'm the over, but I think Tennessee is going to make the over themselves.
Yes. All right. I just wanted to make sure I got that right. So, all right, moving on. Going to the game.
Get it right.
I want to make sure, man. You know, at 6-10, I need to make sure I'm typing everything right in for you. But
Well, as the season goes on, I'll get better.
We'll see.
That's where I catch up. You guys get lucky in the front end, and I just get analytical and good as teams go on it, and I know how to scout.
I mean, you have no data.
Connor Stallions learned everything from me.
I'm not touching that one, man. We're gonna move on to the game that we talked about.
It's not the first time you've said that to me.
It's weird how my mind instantly goes back to some scenarios, and, you know, good times in Western Ohio. But we're gonna move on to the game that we were talking about with Scott Reed at the beginning of the show.
That's right.
Boise State coming off a scoring spree against Georgia Southern, traveling.
What did he call on it? Do you remember?
What specifically? He had 38-21 was the final. Okay. And as we'll kind of get into, I'll start with that. The over-under is sitting at 61.5, so he's looking at that 59 there. So I see where he's coming with that. And then you're seeing the spread. It started at 18.5. You're seeing that jump up to 20. To his point, when you were looking at books, I've kind of seen it anywhere between 18.5 and 20 most of the weeks. So you're seeing only about 57% of the cash going to Oregon. That's kind of why you're seeing different sports books with different odds. You're only seeing about 68% of the money going to over. And I find this really odd. I understand what Oregon did last week. I don't care what they did last week. When you look at Dylan Gabriel's numbers, that to me are video game like in what he did, and that's just a breakout game waiting to happen. Boise State put up a ton of points. I think they can put up a ton of points against Oregon. However, that defense was atrocious. I think Gabriel feast. I think Oregon wins. I want to say that flat out, but I don't like that minus 20 because I still think a 14, 17-point win is a very solid win against Boise State, a potential playoff team. In this case, I go heavy with the over. How about you?
And just in case you didn't know what the numbers were for Dylan Gabriel, 41 of 49 for 380 yards and 2 touchdowns. He did have a sack where he lost a fumble that made a big difference in the game. But just wanted to bring that up for anyone that didn't know what exactly those stats were. Video game numbers, but could have had a lot more touchdowns, but they kind of squandered away some opportunities. So what did you go with?
I went with the over. How about you?
Oh, you did. I'm with you, man. I'm lockstep with that.
Yeah.
I think Boise State's offense or defense gave up a bunch of points last week, and I think Oregon's going to go off. They're going to be focused on scoring. So I think both of them are going to put up some points. Boise State's going to run, and they're going to run good. But I think Oregon's offense is what really leads to the over.
Yeah, I agree. And this has like backdoor cover screamed all over it. I don't like that spread. Mm-hmm. You know, Oregon's winning convincingly, backdoor covered by Boise State. That's why I like to play the over here. All right. It's time for your favorite segment, man. Second favorite, man.
Second favorite, yeah. Not even close. It's a distant second.
Yeah, I just wait all week.
We got to go rapid fire on it.
That's what I wait all week for, man. I love that. So we're going the Broncos of Western Michigan traveling to the Shoe to take on the number 2 Ohio State Buckeyes. We're seeing a spread right now at minus 38 in favor of Ohio State. We're seeing an over-under at 54. I'm going to do something that I did not do once last year. I'm going to lay the points. Give me the Buckeyes. How about you?
Lay the points. I'm with you. Let's go.
Yeah. All right. Number 23, Georgia Tech at 2-0, by the way. Traveling up to the Carrier Dome to take on that guy that played for Ohio State last year. I've already forgot his name because I don't care anymore. In Syracuse, you're seeing a line at minus 3 and an over/under.
Kyle McCord, Honda McCord.
Yeah, I wasn't going to give him. I wasn't going to give his name any recognition, man. There was reason behind that.
What's the dad's name? Derek.
You're seeing Georgia Tech minus 3. You're seeing an over/under at 61. I like Georgia Tech. I think they're rolling at minus 3. How about you?
Lay the points.
Tech?
Lay the points, Tech. Yeah, absolutely.
All right, moving on. Appalachian State 1-0, traveling to number 25 Clemson. We all know 0-1. You're seeing the spread at -17. You're seeing an over/under at 53.5. And as I told you, Beav, I watched a lot of this game. I understand Georgia's elite, one of the best teams in the country. Clemson looked awful. They looked just awful. And it wasn't just the coverage. They were dropping passes. They were missing assignments. They were missing routes. I'm going to take the points. Give me the Mountaineers. How about you?
Give you the Mountaineers and their points, huh? I'm going to go with the over. I think the Mountaineers will score. I think Clemson will come with an offense. And, oh, man, I need the Sun Belt Syndicate to get on here and tell me what to pick, man.
I know who they're picking. They're picking what I'm picking. So I can tell you right now.
Baby.
Yeah. All right. Moving on to the game nobody wants to watch. You got 1-0 Duke traveling to Evanston to take on 1-0.
Look at that under, dude. Oh, shit.
Yeah, it is rapid fire. I usually don't go with starting and current, but I will say this. The over-under started at 40.5. It is plummeted to 37.5.
Holy shit.
Spread, I'm sorry, not even a half, 37. That's a 3.5 point drop. Spread stayed pretty consistent at -2.5. You know, Northwestern couldn't do anything against Miami. Duke looked pedestrian at best under Dia. So I'm going to take the under. How about you?
I'm going to go with Duke covers.
All right. Could be a field goal. I think the 2.5 is scary. They could win, they could lose or win by 3. So
I just, we'll wait and see what Northwestern, those Wildcats, man, it's going to be a tough year. They lost a lot. They didn't return a lot, but they got a quarterback that can get it done. They're playing at a makeshift field, which actually is beautiful. I think they should have built the stadium there. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. All right. Going to College Park next, where Michigan State 1-0, telling everybody to take the over, and that was a crazy under. Traveling to take on the 1-0 Maryland Terrapins. You're seeing that line at -9.5 in favor of Maryland. You're seeing an over/under at 44. I thought Michigan State looked atrocious last week against a very mediocre Florida Atlantic team. Maryland played UConn, one of the worst teams in the FBS, but they took care of business. They did everything they needed to. Michigan State's rising, definitely not there yet. Give me the Terrapins. How about you?
I'm going to go with the over. I think Aiden Childs puts it together this time. He's a young quarterback. Jonathan Smith knows what he's got. I think they were just a week too early at calling the over, and this week, bet it, baby. That's my best bet. If I was going to say hold on to one, that's the one going over.
I think they were about 2 years too early in calling the over there at Michigan State, but we'll see. Moving on. Eastern Michigan at 1-0, traveling to Seattle to take on the 1-0 Washington Huskies. This line is at 24.5, which I got to interject here real fast. Eastern Michigan over-under projections at 4.5, and that's a MAC team. So that's a pretty ugly over-under for a MAC team. Seeing the spread at 24.5 doesn't make a lot of sense. I got to question that quite a bit. Over-under staying consistent at 47. Because that line is what it is, and I don't really like it, and Washington was sleepwalking last week against Weber State, 35-3, ugly game. I actually like the over here. How about you?
Oh, man, they were projected Eastern Michigan to – what was it?
4.5. 4.5 over-under.
My God, what? Oh, whew. I'm going to have to go with the over.
Yeah. That line's funny. I just don't see Eastern Michigan. I don't see Eastern Michigan being a very good team whatsoever. Traveling to Seattle, and you're seeing a spread at 24.5. There's something not right there.
It didn't change though. It opened at 24.5.
It stayed consistent all week, and in fact, today when I was checking money, 54% of the money now is rolling to the Eastern Michigan spread. Something.
Oh wow.
I haven't read anything. I've checked around with colleagues. No injuries, nothing I've heard of from Washington side. Very, very odd situation. In cases like that, I say go over under. I'd probably stay away from this spread.
Wow.
So, all right, moving on. Going to Stillwater. You got Arkansas at 1-0, traveling to Oklahoma State, the number 16th ranked Cowboys. You're seeing a spread at -7.5. You're seeing an over-under at 63, which has jumped up 3.5 points this week. 96% of the cash going to the over. I think we saw a lot of great things from Oklahoma State last week. This one's simple to me. I take the over. How about you?
I'm going to reverse that and go the under. I think they're going to try to push that ball down Ollie Gordon's throat, and they're going to run some time off the clock. And now that you don't have a stoppage on first downs, it makes a big difference in the unders versus the overs. So I'm going under.
Yeah. I agree. That's some good insight there. Next, going to Piscataway, where the 0-1 Akron Zips are taking on the 1-0 Rutgers Scarlet Knights. You're seeing an over-under at 39.5. You're seeing a spread of Rutgers at minus 22.5. Anyone who watched the game last week, Ohio State Akron, they're not a great football team, but their quarterback had a lot of injuries throughout that game. When he was in there, he was serviceable. I think if he can stay upright and healthy all game, you're probably going to see a few points from Akron. Rutgers is going to take care of business. Don't like the spread. I'm going over. How about you?
I'm going to say that Akron covers. The way they played defense on that defensive line against Ohio State and stop their running game a little bit, I think they're going to be able to shut down Manigai. Kyle Manigai is going to be shut down just enough to keep it under.
Yeah. I mean, they played Ohio State extremely well. You start going back, and obviously the two or three really quick touchdowns there in the middle of the third, and short of that, they were hanging really competitive against Ohio State. So tip your cap down.
Akron covers.
All right, I got you there. And finally, before we get to the game of the week, we're going to stop in Auburn, where the 1-0 Cal Golden Bears are going to take on the Oline Tigers at 1-0. You see a spread at minus 13 in favor of Auburn, and you're seeing an over-under at 53 here. Just for kind of reference points, you're seeing Cal here in the ACC at a 6.5 over-under, so projected at fringe bowl team. You're seeing Auburn 7.5, obviously playing that tough SEC schedule. These are teams that have played each other the last few years off and on, so there is some familiarity with that. With that being said, when I see 96% of the cash going to that spread in favor of Auburn, I'm taking the Tigers. How about you?
I'm going to say that California covers.
All right. You do strike me as a Berkeley boy.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah. All right. Getting to the game, everybody literally tunes in.
You know what? I'm going to protest that.
Yeah, see, I told you, Berkeley boy. It fits perfectly, man. Fit right in. All right, week 2 of the BWYP Game of the Week. And just so everyone is...
Burns win you pee. It's that bad. It's that bad. It's going to make you pee. It's going to make it burn. You're going to want to go get tested.
That's why this game's all you, my friend. So just for reference, last week we had Eastern Michigan, as we just kind of talked about, taking on UMass. UMass was a 2.5-point favorite. Eastern Michigan winning outright with ease. So you are 1-0 in this game. Again, it's a little tough early on. I told everybody last week I'm not putting any FCS schools in here. So until we can clear out September and all these FCS games, it's a little tricky to find some, but I think I did. So we are going with the 1-0 Central Michigan Chippewas with an over-under projection this year of 5.5. Taking on the Florida International Panthers. 0-1, got thumped by the Indiana Hoosiers last week. They're projected over-unders at 4.5. I picked this 1-1 because these are two pretty bad teams, but I wanted a little bit of a bigger spread here to make you think a little bit. Central Michigan is minus 6.5, and we got
Who did they beat?
I am not sure. I can check that, but I'll read the over-under to you, and you can ponder a little bit while you think about that. But the over-under is sitting at 51.5. So you got a spread of minus 6.5, and you have an over-under at 51.5. And Central Michigan beat Central Connecticut last week.
66-10?
Yes. Central Connecticut.
Oh, well, if Carter Stallions is still on the sidelines, I got to go with the Chippewas, baby.
I cannot.
Give me the Chippewas.
I cannot confirm if he is still roaming the sidelines. According to the Netflix documentary, he is not, or either he gave a.
I mean, lay the points. Lay the points. Give me the Chippewas.
Yeah.
I can't trust a team that got waxed by Indiana. Maybe Kurt Cignetti's got it going on, but until I absolutely have proof of that, I'm going with the Chippewas.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not really bullish on Indiana this year. You know, last week I kind of picked the over. I thought that defense was going to struggle a little bit, so I kind of thought I'd see more from that game. It was pretty ugly, but I think that's more a testament to how bad Florida International is as opposed to Indiana being any sort of relevant.
Indiana's got some swag. Kurt Cignetti's got it. He's got a history. He is like a poor man's Kalen DeBoer, so I wouldn't be surprised. Man, he's a winner.
And Rourke, the quarterback there, you know, we talked about him last year. He played at Ohio, you know, the MAC Freshman of the Year award. So, again, you and I talk about this quite a bit. We always look at coach and quarterback plays being two key drivers with football. So you get that quarterback play. Look what happened last year with UW and Michael Penix. You get great quarterback play. The sky's the limit.
Matt just did Vegas with me, man. How's it feel?
Invigorating, man. I love it.
You joined me. You joined me for it. It was just me and you going at it with Vegas.
I know, man. We miss our boy AJ. We hope he's doing well and just keeping the seat warm until he comes back. And we got to get his picks in. We'll read them off. We'll try to get them in there, get everybody updated on those, and make sure we keep the standings on the up and up.
Here we go, brother. Hi, man. Thanks for joining us. Big Ten backers. Like, share, subscribe. Tell a friend, bring a friend in, do whatever you can to spread the wealth, man. We're getting better every episode. This episode was better. We had 170 people in live for a late show on a Thursday night, so boom, baby. And the downloads are over 5,000 in our lifetime. We have only had one full season, and it just continues to grow. So this is me on my soapbox. Give us some love, all right? Download, like, share, subscribe. Any of your outlets for podcasts, we're on them all right? Here we go. Big Ten backers are out, baby. You got any last words, Vegas?
Good luck this weekend, everyone.
All right. God bless.